Hello, hello. Welcome to our Thought Leader Show. I appreciate you taking the time to join me this morning. So, I wanted to talk about how we can really create bolder moves with how we show up, in our careers, in our leadership, and really moving towards creating a legacy for ourselves. And when I oftentimes say legacy, it seems really large and daunting, but the truth is, it's really just how we want to look back at the time we spent in our lives, in our careers, and feel like a sense of accomplishment for what it is that we created. And so sometimes we really don't know how to bridge the gap between just showing up day to day, feeling like we're in this endless hamster wheel of creation, tasks, projects, and just doing more and more, to really stepping out and going into the driver's seat of our careers. And I know this can feel really challenging sometimes because I know a lot of the clients that I'm working with who are in big tech are feeling the pressure of the market, the changes that have occurred in the last year, last 2 years, and really struggling with knowing, how do I get out in front of this? How do I even have time for personal development? How do I even, create the space for myself? And the truth is, it does take a bit of effort. It does take a bit of strategy with how you create expectations and boundaries and truly carve out intentionality for your life. But when you do, which it's possible, then you can actually start to create a plan for yourself that makes it possible for you to go from where you are now to actually feeling like you're making some progress. And that's probably one of the largest challenges or issues that I see when I'm working with different clients who are feeling hopeless, or they're feeling like they just really don't know how they're supposed to move forward when they have a million other things and 14 meetings every single day and Slack messages and all of the things that I know that you're familiar with. So, and when we're thinking about, really taking bold steps within our careers, I want you to consider, what are the things that you're currently doing now? Do you have a plan? Do you have a roadmap? Do you have a strategy for how you can start to traverse within your career to reaching that next level goal, to reaching, VP, SVP, C-suite? Is that your goal? Is it to embark on your own? Is it to start up your own company or your foundation? There are so many multitudes of ways that we can support our bigger dreams, our talents, our expertise, and really becoming thought leaders within our industry. And so it doesn't look the same for every individual. But in a sense, most of us don't want to stay feeling stuck where we are. And if that's true for you, then a plan is really important, and really thinking about how you're showing up each and every day. Our energy economy is going to determine our own success when we step forward within our roles in bigger ways. And so it's going to be incredibly important that you're mindful with how you show up and what you're bringing to the table each and every day, and how you want to cultivate a life that you feel empowered by, that you feel excited by and ecstatic with, and how you continue to move forward. So one of the first things I really know that always comes up with different leaders is the type of communication that we are establishing for ourselves, effective communication. But sometimes we don't really know, what is effective communication? What does that actually mean, or what does that actually look like? We might think that we are communicating effectively with the emails that we write, or the Slack messages that we send, or how we communicate with different members of our teams. But there's a multitude of things to consider when it comes to effective communication, and especially with how we are planning our career, how we're showing up in different capacities. And so there's not only how we, manage down or even manage across, but also how we're managing up. And that requires a bit of a shift sometimes in the communication style that we deliver, and the words and the body language that we're exuding when we are appearing in different capacities. And so our ability to negotiate is a big key. How we negotiate within larger meetings versus with our team, it's huge, versus with customers. So when I'm working with clients who are having to negotiate with customers, we're working through different strategies versus how we are negotiating, say, with the executive team or how we're negotiating with team members. And so it's important to consider what are your negotiation skills, how you are able to show up, and how you're able to communicate in such a way where you're helping people to come together and create what do I want to say? Compromises and solutions, which leads us into conflict resolution. Sometimes we struggle with wanting to have everybody happy or be a pleaser when it doesn't really serve us. And so we have to consider, what is the type of conflict resolution and the skills that we have around that enabling us or contributing to how we are able to present ourselves within our leadership. And so not everything, number one, not all conflict is bad. And so the more that we can approach conflict with curiosity, the greater the chance that we will come to a resolution. And so when you're approaching different conversations where maybe you do feel a little bit fired up, maybe you do have some passion behind what it is that you're saying, how we're approaching that conflict or the feelings that we're having inside is going to make a drastic difference with the outcome that we're looking for. And really within communication as well is strategic alignment. How are we aligning our communication with the goals of the organization, with the goals of the people that we're working with, and even with an external goal in mind? And so when we're communicating, are we thinking ahead about what it is that we are trying to convey and how we want to formulate that so that people are able to understand what we're looking to accomplish and how it then ties back? I know when I work with a lot of engineers, the struggle is that they can see 5, 10, 15 steps ahead. And so they'll start speaking to points that are far beyond where the rest of the team is at, or the people who are involved in the discussion that's being had. And so they have to kind of step back and understand, okay, how do I help this conversation get or help them get to those 5, 10 steps that I'm seeing? And sometimes it requires a bit of patience as well. So when we're thinking about our communication style, we can also then think about how we are strategizing and creating our network. Oftentimes, we've heard our network is our net worth. Well, that's true in business as much as it is true within our careers. And the more entrepreneurial that we can be within our careers, the greater the chance it is that we can start to create a brand for ourselves that precedes us. And so networking is incredibly important for both internal and external conversations that you're having. So if you're wanting to continue to rise up within your organization, your networking strategy, who you're reaching out to, and how is going to play an integral role just as much as reaching out to other individuals within your industry, and how you approach that and create strategies and systems for yourself so that you are starting to be the go-to person that people are thinking of, or it's top of mind when they're considering who could be a right fit for this type of role, who could be a right fit for this project. And sometimes we really struggle because we don't feel comfortable, putting ourselves out there in such a way or marketing ourselves, because it's not a skill or a muscle that we have fully flexed. Oftentimes as an individual contributor, you're really focused on just doing a really good job. And then you step into leadership and it feels a little bit uncomfortable. And so you're not sure how to reach out. And the biggest complaint that I hear from clients is that they just don't want to waste other people's time. But if you're coming at it from a place of service and a place of curiosity and how you can help another individual, it's no longer about you or wasting someone else's time. It's about how you can show up in a greater way and be of greater support. So I want you to consider that. You are a gift. And the things that you bring, the expertise that you bring, the team that you have behind you, you have so much more to offer than I think sometimes we give ourselves credit for. And so it's just a matter of pivoting and shifting the way that we're approaching our networking strategy, how we're reaching out within the organization, touching base with people after conversations or after meetings, or really just cold calling people, even sometimes within large organizations, just so that we have a better understanding of how their division operates, within the organization, and ways that we could even partner together And you can take the similar strategy then externally to how you're reaching out to people beyond. The next thing to really consider is visibility. So you're not only creating networking opportunities for yourself, but you are increasing your visibility within the organization and beyond. And the biggest thing that most people struggle with is how to put themselves out there in a way that feels natural or feels comfortable, or something that doesn't seem to impact, maybe there's some fear around how the organization is going to feel or your representation of that. But if you're speaking about things that you know would benefit the industry, that you know are important, and really highlight your passions and the things that you bring, the greater possibility and opportunity that you have to create visibility for yourself. And so sometimes we don't recognize or realize that we have so many platforms available to us that are not just within the immediate, conversations that we're having or within our organization, that other people even within our organization might see. And that's in a positive way. And so if you're really thinking about strategically how you want to start positioning yourself, a good approach can be how you're positioning yourself outside your company as an industry expert and a thought leader, and the types of things that you are passionate about and interested in, and then bringing that internal as well. And this really has a lot to do with personal branding. And so when I'm talking about personal branding for leaders, I still get so many people who are curious about, like, what does this mean, personal branding? Does that mean I have a logo, or does that mean I have this? And that's definitely not the case. I mean, you certainly could. But personal branding is how you are being known and what you're known for. And it's what people think of when they first hear your name. And so sometimes we forget that as leaders. And it's no much more than just our leadership style or how we show up. Leadership style is only one aspect. That's like the very beginning. It's what you do with it and your natural strengths and what you bring to the table with your personality that starts to determine, what is your personal brand, how you show up, how you support, how you serve, how you inspire other people, how you connect people and bring them together. What are you known for? And really leaning into that. But most of us don't really consider that. And so we're not aware of what it is that we even bring to the table. We just haven't spent much time thinking about it, or we're very worried about being humble. And I can tell you that it's really important that we can consider, what is our zone of genius? Much like that book, The Big Leap. I encourage you to read it if you haven't. But really considering, what are those little pieces that you do that you connect and can bring to the full picture, and to, completing that puzzle for yourself, so that you know how to step into your brilliance in such a way where other people can see it and it feels natural and it feels comfortable for you. So developing your personal brand is so, so much more than just putting something out there onto social media. It's how you show up in every capacity, and how people start to feel when your presence is around, and what they start to associate you with, and being cognizant of that. Again, going back to our energy economy, how are we showing up every single day? How are we showing up and leading our teams? How are we contributing to conversations within the organization? How are we responding to conflict and personal issues, or, things and changes that we may or may not like? All of the things that we do, that all requires that personal development piece and awareness that sometimes we don't fully have, because we're not spending a lot of time paying attention to it. And I know it is a struggle. It can be very much a struggle when we are facing so many other things, which is why intentionality is incredibly important when we're wanting to consider, how do we continue to rise up and move up and be strategic about it. But the best thing about it is, when you start to develop a plan, you can actually start to see the impact that you're creating. You can start to see the steps that you are taking along the road of growth for not only yourself, but how your career is starting to take place and evolve. So really establishing your thought leadership is going to be crucial for how you continue to rise up within your industry, within your organization, so that people can start to see you for more than just someone who gets it done, but also someone who thinks about how you problem solve for the future, how you think about where the company is sitting and the organization is sitting, and what are the things that could be done to make it even better. And innovative and creative thinking is something that's asked of us all the time. But are we strategically implementing it? And so going back to how you're putting yourself out there, how you're showing up, how are you sharing the ideas that you have and the different solutions in such a way where, maybe you're not compromising the organization and the innovative ideas that they're coming out of that, but how are you sharing it maybe internally? How are you talking about those things that you're passionate about? Both, internally and externally. Your thought leadership is what starts to separate you as an individual so that when people are considering you for different roles, they know that you come with a mind that likes to think and strategize and create new solutions. So you are continually problem solving. There's this thing that sometimes happens. It's like for every team, it's coming back, with every complaint, come back with two different solutions, right? That's the difference between a leader and someone who might be a follower. So if you're thinking about how you continue to grow, and if you're already in your leadership, then how you motivate your teams is going to be integral to all of this, right? How do we motivate other individuals? And if you don't have a team, it's okay. You're still probably on a team. So how are you motivating other individuals? And are you inspiring by leading by example? Are you encouraging other forms of thought and ideas? How are you eliciting different types of feedback? And are you married to your own opinions? Sometimes we can get really stuck. We want to die on a specific hill and we don't consider, maybe we need to shift a little bit so that we can help others and therefore help ourselves by creating systems for thinking. So how are we encouraging others and motivating our teams to be thinking outside of the box? But if we're all very concerned with our own ideas and making sure that those always go forth, we're not eliciting teamwork. And so the greatest thing that we can do as a leader is really encourage our teams to take that ownership and accountability for the direction that the team as a whole is going. And this really requires systemic thinking and systemic change and organizational thinking. What you're doing is creating your own legacy through your team, and you are there as the buffer, the support system, everything that they need in order for them to do their jobs most effectively. So if you've really been considering how do you continue to rise up within your leadership, within your brand, within your organization, and within your industry, I highly encourage you to consider what are the different things that you're putting into place? How are you strategizing this? Do you have a roadmap for yourself? Do you create lists of things that you can continue to work on? How are you carving out time each and every day so that you are making sure that your energy economy is intact, so that when you show up into your job, into your work, that you are putting your best foot forward? You are being the person that others are looking forward to seeing. We all have the people that sometimes we don't want to see, but are we one of them? So we need to ask ourselves that, and we have to look really deeply within so that we can start to recognize, okay, maybe there are some areas and changes that I need to make, but also recognizing the strengths, the gifts, the talents that we also bring. And how do we let those come out in a greater way that feels natural, authentic, and really true to ourselves? So if you're curious about how you can continue forward to really creating systems and strategies for really developing your leadership brand, your legacy, and really creating a name for yourself, then I'd love to speak with you. Please reach out. Let's talk about what are the different things that you feel you're challenged with. Where are some of the gaps that you're facing? And what are the things that you would like to implement so that you feel like you are getting off of that hamster wheel and finally able to see yourself making progress each and every day? Thanks so much for joining me, and I will put a link into the comments for a time where we can maybe set up a time to chat. All right, enjoy the rest of your day.